One fine ordinary day, Okada Rika is working on her station as usual when the protagonist of the story, Kish-kun, reaches her out of consent. He calls Okada's name and asks if she can verify those documents for him. It all goes back to 1 month when a new employee joined the company where Okada is working right now. That employee was Kishi himself. She questions if Kishi is her stalker because his suspicious behaviors have made her ponder. Just today, when she leaves her house, Kishi encounters her. In the office, Kishi is always there, no matter where she goes. While she was pondering, Kishi reached her to say good morning, to which she replied with the same expression. Kishi tells her that she looks a bit different today, asking if she had cut her bangs maybe. She is agitated by how much he notices her, almost as if he is entirely aware of her actions and thoughts. As she goes through the project she requested, she seems tense, and Kishi asks if there is an error. Okada responds that it is just fine, which makes him question if she is exhausted from work. She has sighed 1.7 times more than habitual. Kishi asks about Okada's other meeting she has in the afternoon, to which she affirms. He, with the intention of helping, has already prepared a draft that would help her out during the meeting. Kishi hands over the document to Okada while lowering himself in apology because he has done everything without her asking for it. He asks if he has been bothering her lately, to which she says that it was all fine. He was just overthinking it. While feeling delighted, he is happy that he is helpful to Okada. In her heart, Okada thinks of Kishi as a handsome man, such that her heart could skip a beat for once. To truly depict Kishi's sudden change of behavior, we will have to span back to the winters almost 3 years from now. Sitting at her table desk, younger Okada perceives Kishi, who has been standing in front of the company for some time now, mumbling to himself as someone who could be dangerous. She shrugs it off, thinking that it shouldn't be her concern, but then she reaches him, asking if he is lost. He lowers and, in a greeting tone, expresses that he might be better off dead, which leaves Okada dumbfounded. The scene shifts to both of them sitting at a coffee table. Okada has served Kishi some warm coffee while she waits for him to calm down. He affirms that he is okay now and apologizes for earlier. While looking at Kishi's employee card, Okada thinks about his comment about being better off dead. It's not something an average person would utter. She asks if something has happened to him while declaring that it would be okay, too, if he doesn't want to talk about it. Replying to her question, he reveals that he was working seriously as his boss had told him to do so. But apparently, there has been an inconvenience in the costs with the supplier that has put the company through some loss. Expressing further, he tells her about how his boss has told him not to come to work unless he is done making his apologies to every single employee of the company, kneeling down, which is almost disgraceful to Kishi, but he is there to apologize anyway. Trying to boost his self-esteem, Okada tells him that he will lower herself with him too, while they both apologize to everyone, which makes him question it. She says that this act would actually leave everyone startled, so she advises to apologize usually. She would definitely come up with a solution for it, so she demands him not to die yet. He affirms that he wouldn't. After the circumstances had finally changed, the director of Okada's company and Kishi's company turned out to be old friends. Kishi's case was closed after a mere warning, and his boss was transferred to a different company. Okada's helping behavior made Kishi want to work with her, so he was put in charge of the transactions at Okada's company. While everyone was looking forward to working with him, his transfer surprised Okada, and it made her happy too, since he wanted to work with her himself. Now when she thinks of it, he really had a different vibe from him 3 years back, but Okada didn't really believe that he would turn out to be a stalker, now after 3 years. The scene escalates back to the present day when Okada and Kishi are talking about her meeting in the afternoon. Kishi wishes her luck with some kelp tea, which makes her prompt that he even knows of her tea routine before meetings. She wonders just how much this weird guy knows about her. In a bar with a bunch of colleagues, Kishi seems to enjoy their yapping session while they brag about his abilities to work fast. Kishi agrees to whatever they said. Someone asks him why he decided to join their company, and he states all the circumstances, which makes them scream Okada's name out of excitement as to how she has looked after Kishi since then. Kishi asks Okada if she will keep looking after him, which affirms him, saying that she is his senpai, after all, a superior. A few moments later, this drunkard escalates to a female bathroom, talking to himself in the mirror. He goes on to think of how he literally praises the very existence of Okada, her voice, her majestic hair, and her delicate appearance. While he is daydreaming, Okada pulls up from one of the bathrooms and sees him standing there. She reminds him of how he has entered a lady's bathroom, but he tells her that he was just looking out for her. While he was self-talking, Okada heard it and wondered if he was there just to say it all. After a while, they can be seen playing a karaoke game when Kishi whips out a big-ass mic to record Okada singing so that he can listen to her songs again and again. Okada asks to stop it, which he does, but he says out loud that he can still hear it whenever he wants to. Okada finds it suspicious, but since it is her turn to sing, she starts singing. She scores a magnificent 98 out of 100, and it is Kishi's turn to sing now. He drugs it off while denying that he won't sing. That's how their singing came to an end. Night falls, and while everyone goes to their houses, Kishi is with Okada, which makes her question if he's the only one with her. He prompts that they're here, standing in front of Okada's doorstep. She's astonished as to why he knows her address and how he even got past the main door of the complex, which has an auto lock on it. He replies that he just lives next door, that's why. Okada makes a really dumb face, prompting her to be clueless. She asks him why he hasn't told her this before, to which he replied that she never asked. Since several rooms in the complex are rented through their company, he took one on rent too. Okada thinks in her head about how she hasn't even heard a single sound from next door, thinking that it was empty all that time. While she is awestruck, Kishi reveals that he is delighted to be close to her while at work and now at home. Further, he compliments how his morning begins with her beautiful humming next door, prompting her to think if that's what he had meant there at the karaoke. He reveals her favorite song, Parachute, which she always sings while blow-drying her hair. She is wholly flabbergasted at this point, but Kishi is not done yet. He gets to hear her all the time, and that's why he holds back at the karaoke. While making her recall how she was wondering about eating natto with bread or rice, he asks what she ate in the end. "Why do you know so much?" she asks Kishi, pondering if he has eavesdropped on everything. In answering her question, he reveals that he will do anything to get to know more about her. His deeper pitch is frightening enough for Okada to think of him as a creep. Astonished and flabbergasted, she calls him a stalker while telling him to stop it all and not to come near her. Annoyed, she tells him not to even show his face to her, which puts him through great sadness. His eyes start to fill up with tears, claiming that it isn't like that. If he has heard Okada's singing, she asks if he has set up wiretaps in his house. Wiping off his tears, he reveals that he hasn't done such a thing. Instead, he listens to it through the wall, which is still a no-go for Okada. He requests her to let him stay as he won't be able to stay away from her. He mentions that he only wants to stay near her, saying that he will even breathe quietly so that it doesn't disturb her, which is even more dumb and concerning for her. Kishi asks if he made her angry cause at his actions. While he sobs, Okada is flustered by him. The next morning, Okada looks at her daily house chore schedule while brushing and finds out that it is trash day today. She would have to take out the trash, and as soon as she leaned out of her door, she saw someone already there. Greeting her with a good morning, Kishi asks if she needs her trash to be thrown out as he is already going out for that. She exclaims that it is fine. She would just put it there. She asks if he is still on to things they talked about yesterday, to which he replies with a yes. She questions if she is angry with him, and she replies that she isn't. He wonders if he's getting kicked out of the premises if that's the case. Okada exclaims that she wouldn't do such a stupid thing to him, but she wants him to adhere to some essential things. Stating them, she goes on to talk about not listening to her through walls, not hiding his identity as that would be more suspicious, and not telling anyone at the office about the coincidence of them being neighbors. He assures her not to worry about it and that he will adhere to them. After being told not to notice her anymore, this ignorant buffoon passes on a comment on her new loungewear, saying that he hasn't seen that before. Since she's been wearing that soft, plushy one all that time now, she tells him never to mind her dress and get ready for the office as he might get late. He revealed that there had been some technical inconvenience at the office, and they'd be working remotely for the day, including Okada. Prepping breakfast, she thinks of the remote work, and how it's actually weird that Kishi might be listening to her through the walls. Suddenly, she's struck by the idea that she should check on him too, if he's there or not. While she's on it, she's hit by an instant realization that if she does that, there would be no difference between Kishi and her. She calms herself down and says that she'll see him during the afternoon meeting. It's officially the afternoon, and their remote meeting is beginning. Okada witnessed that the item she had requested Kishi to send over in a week he had sent way earlier. Amidst the playful banter between the employees during the meeting, Okada noticed that Kishi was constantly focusing on his work without any distractions. His work ethic is commendable, and Okada might not have anything in her mind to complain about regarding that. While she is wondering all of that in her head, her thoughts are disrupted by a doorbell. She conveys her pardons and steps out to check on the door. Right when she opened the door, she was instantly embarrassed to see that it was Kishi's doorbell and not hers. She instantly bangs the door shut and begins reminiscing that everyone in the meeting would have noticed both of them stepping out at the same time. After giving it a thought, she realizes that she is just overthinking. She should shrug it off and act like nothing happened. She joins the meeting again and is instantly relieved when she is told that the meeting was paused due to several people stepping out for the toilet. After discussing business, some of the employees bid farewell as they had other tasks to carry out in daily life. Daimoto, one of the employees, hears a little chatter that seems like a local broadcast, but Okada gasps as she reveals that it is just the elementary school nearby her. The voices are coming from there since it is 5 o'clock now. Daimoto exclaims that he is hearing the same voice coming from someone else's mic too, and that's when Okada realizes that it might be Kishi's. Kishi notices a text from Okada prompting him to open his speaker, and that's when Daimoto confirms that the sound is coming from Kishi's side too, leaving him to question if both of them are living together since they're very close to each other at the office. This guy is much more interested in others' life than his own. Without thinking twice, dumb Okada reveals that they were just neighbors. An instant regret hits her when she rethinks it, but everyone is already amused by the fact that they're neighbors. Kishi thinks of how she told him not to reveal the secret, but to reveal it herself anyway. Fed up with the barrage of questions, Okada simply leaves the meeting. All fatigued and exhausted, she thinks about how everyone is going to tease her if they find out about Kishi's stalking-like behavior. She finally decides that even though they're neighbors, she would only concern herself with him. The bare minimum. The next morning, Okada sets out to fetch some groceries for herself, and that's when she suddenly bumps into Kishi, telling her that the cup of ramen contains 340 kilocalories. His presence made Okada question if he was following her, to which he replies that he was just there for groceries. She apologizes for suspecting him, but he tells her that he is lucky to have seen her there. He stares at her groceries, commenting on how mere noodles won't be good for proper nutrition. She asks about what he is going to make, to which he replies he is going to make beef stroganoff at home. Okada is surprised that Kishi can cook as well. He invites her over for dinner, to which she agrees, but as the scene escalates to dinner time, she can be seen regretting her decision as she had decided to stay low-key with Kishi. Dinner was ready, and Kishi revealed that he had made a potato salad too. Surprised, she asks how he even cooks that much in such a short time. He replies that he has a pressure cooker at home, revealing that she had influenced him for all of that. Okada questions about it. 3 years back, when he was all stressed because of losing his job and the blunders he had made, Okada helped him through his things. She asked if he ain't eating much as he looked pale, to which he exclaimed that he was just too stressed to eat properly. She advises him to eat properly and regain his strength so that he does better at work. That's when he started to cook at home, and now, this time, he somehow wanted to be the one to help Okada out. Apologizing for her behavior, she quickly agrees to eat what he made. While seeing him smirk, she questions if he has put anything weird in the meal, to which he says that he would have eaten right in front of her for her surety, but his hands are full. At that moment, Okada takes out a spoon and feeds him with her own hands. She asks how it is, to which he affirms that it had become even tastier now that she had fed him with his hands, and that's when, somewhere in her heart, she thought Kishi was cute. One day, Okada is set to leave somewhere, but is interrupted by Kishi's voice. He shows her an earring that she had lost for some time and had been looking out for it too. She conveys her thank you but notices that a part of it was already missing when she lost it. But now it is back. Kishi reveals how he had broken the previous one by accidentally stepping on it in the hallway. He has bought a new one for her. She tells him that he shouldn't have gone this far, and she asks if she could repay him, which he clearly denies. Instead, he requests that if he can keep the broken one, he will actually treasure it and make sure to hang it on the wall. Okada shudders and asks him to throw it away as it is bizarre. Thinking of his stalking-like behavior, she concludes that despite his weird attraction to her, he has never intended to harm her in any case. Meanwhile, they're talking, and Okada can't help but notice his constantly rumbling stomach. "Did you eat?" she asks Kishi. He replies that he hasn't eaten lunch yet. She wants to invite him to a meal, but is afraid that she might end up in a terrible situation, being alone with her stalker. She couldn't ignore the rumbles and invited him anyway, talking of the day when he had asked her for dinner, offering beef stroganoff, but she couldn't pronounce the word. She wants to compensate for it too. Kishi finds it cute that she tries to hide the fact that she can't pronounce the word. At quite a fancy restaurant, the scene shifts to Kishi, who is served with a steaming Hamburg steak for himself. As always, this buffoon MC tries to be romantic as if this would get him closer to Okada. He said that eating such a steak would be a waste, as he has been treated by Okada for it. It is Kishi's first time visiting such a fancy restaurant, which is making him nervous. Okada thought he might be familiar with such places as he claimed to be really good at cooking. He revealed that going alone was actually difficult for him, so he relied on social media for guidance. While they talk, Kishi notices that there are a lot of couples near them, as it is quite a fancy place. Okada wonders if they also look like couples to others. Kishi goes on for his first bite and finds the steak pretty tasty. While they were at the dinner table, 2 of their colleagues spotted them and reached out to them to have lunch together. They all agreed to order a pizza, which they could share with each other. Drooling, one of the coworkers asks Kishi what he is eating. He replies, telling him that he had ordered cheese Hamburg steak. He asks for some when Kishi tells him that it's half-eaten. He was happy to be having a meal with such a comfortable group. While looking at Kishi, Okada is touched by the fact that his skin has become more fair than before. After a good meal, they all left, bidding farewell to each other. Moments at the office, Okada witnesses Kishi while he's having his regular drawing session. She's astonished to see his impressive drawing abilities. He is drawing the Hamburg steak that he had just before. Bro is actually head over heels at this point. Okada requests that she go through the other pages too, but before Kishi can say something, she goes on to flip the pages. After a few pages, she was taken aback by what she saw. The book was complete of realistic drawings of Okada, so lifelike that one could almost think of them as sneak pictures. Okada tries to confiscate the diary, but Kishi is least bothered as it is his third one. She asks him to stop it all and declares it to be prohibited. On her computer station, she thinks back to when Kishi used to notice her most of the time, but she didn't think he would go for such things. Though no one had drawn portraits of her that way, she was touched. Her thoughts are disrupted when a coworker reaches her out of consent to talk about something. They talk about how they should alter their content that is friendly and attractive to their middle-aged female audience. She can't help but think of Kishi's drawings as they were outstanding. Buried deep in such thoughts, she finds herself drawing a funny portrait of Kishi. She tosses the drawing into the dustbin and thinks of focusing more on work. A few days later, Okada passes by a group of colleagues chattering. She stops by to hear it as they seem to talk about her. One goes on to talk about Okada not being excellent as a leader, as her instructions are quite vague and her decisions are based on feelings. They ask Kishi if he agrees to it or if he is okay with Okada being the boss. Okada wonders if he would agree to it all, as he is actually better than her in all aspects. Kishi replies with a blunt no, disagreeing with their thoughts. He goes on to explain how Okada would do and how he is doing better as the boss of them all. This puts Okada through a barrage of thoughts of the times when she first met him, as he goes on to say that Okada is possibly the best boss he could ask for. Later, Okada is stunned to see Kishi wearing the shirt with her drawing on it. She recalls how she had tossed the drawing into the trash bin, but she forgot that it was the newbie's job to collect the trash from each desk. A coworker passes a comment that his shirt is mind-boggling. Kishi says it's rude, claiming it to be his drawing on the shirt, and in a few days that shirt was trending in the office, and it's safe to say that Okada found the gesture to be cute. The next day, Kishi compliments Okada's handwriting, calling it cute. This makes her wonder as to how he knows about it. How did he conclude that she wrote the text on the package? To answer that, he reveals that he has all the notes for texts that she previously may have written. The boy seems to be a collector in his previous life, almost making me wonder if he has something suspicious about him too. He is planning on creating a font out of her handwriting, but he hasn't found the time to do so. Okada tells him that he really doesn't have to do that. Furthermore, Kishi tells Okada that he has also bookmarked her email and one day he might make an Okada syntax. Since email is Okada's only way of communication, Kishi instantly realizes that he needs to ask her for her contact information. He trembles when he asks, but it isn't tough. Okada gives him her contact. Turns out this expressionless guy has an adorable dog as his profile picture, whereas Okada has a sea urchin. He is grateful and says thank you while Okada walks off, reminiscing about whether she has made a mistake in sharing her contact information. She wonders what would happen if he constantly spammed her with texts and numerous calls. That would be pretty annoying. He leaves a casual text. After a while, Kishi happens to pass by Okada and her friend during a break session when they both are having a casual chat together. He eavesdrops on Okada, like he always does, saying that she likes guys with muscles who could lift you up their arms. However, the next day, Okada notices that she is all wrong about how Kishi would annoy her with a barrage of long-ass texts. But he acts nothing like that. Okada is disrupted by Kishi when he reaches her out from behind. He tells her that he has left his laptop at home and there's nothing that he can do other than go home to quickly fetch it. He apologizes for the inconvenience, but Okada is cool with it. She just asks him to be careful next time. Yet another day, Kishi messes up with the daily work that he used to do so magnificently. Lately, however, he has been just making blunders and seems to be fatigued. Okada asks if he is alright, and he affirms that he is okay. But the next day, it is pouring rain outside when Okada receives a text from Kishi to help him out. She wonders about what this guy is up to. Moments later, she witnesses Kishi standing at the main door, all drenched in rain. She asks if he is okay, and he reveals that he has lost his keys. Now he is completely drenched since he couldn't get in. Okada wonders what she can do to help him in this situation, pondering if she should ask him to come to her place, which she ends up asking to. She tells him to use her shower and gives him her towel to dry himself with a large pair of pants that he can use too. He feels grateful, saying thanks that she had done so much for him. He apologizes for the inconvenience caused and tries to leave for a manga cafe to stay there for the night. As he tries to walk off, Okada stops him by holding onto his hand, telling him that she's worried about him. She didn't realize that she was holding his hand, so she drew it back instantly. She expresses her thoughts of how she noticed Kishi acting all weird lately. He replies that it is nothing, but she exclaims that there must be something, or is it that he doesn't find her reliable anymore? After the constant questioning, he finally reveals that he has been training himself hard enough to become jacked as she fancies muscle-packed guys. The muscle aches from the training have been so much that he couldn't really focus on work cause of them. She asks him what he is talking about, and he replies that he overheard her conversation with Hetake, her colleague, about how she's into muscular guys. Okada says that she was just talking about a comedian, which puts Kishi in great embarrassment. Kishi wanted to become jacked cause he thought that Okada liked men with muscles. Okada thought of this gesture as a confession, and she was nervous also because it was just her and Kishi in the room. Kishi poses a question, asking Okada about her taste in men, which puts her through cannonade thoughts of her past. Thinking of how she never had a stable relationship until now, she only replies that she doesn't really understand the concept of liking. She couldn't really push herself with relationships like usual people, so she didn't have balanced experiences to judge. She says that she is not really suited for romance. This makes Kishi think that he must have earnestly tried to face those people, and now he is envious of them. Amidst the chatter, he finally finds his keys, and he bids farewell, saying thank you to Okada. She closes the door, but her heart seems to be throbbing still. The scene shifts to a dark place as if Kishi is standing outside a building. Is he really going to find out the guy Okada was talking about? The next day at the office, Kishi reaches out to Okada just to let her know that he won't be there for work. He is planning on taking a 3-day leave from work for numerous reasons. It is pretty rare for Kishi to ask for paid leave, and he exclaims that he had joined the company to stay closer to Okada. But this time he is going to visit his parents. He states the reason is that his mother accidentally broke her leg, and his sister is to be married during those 3 days. He would really need to go. Okada feels sorry for his mother and assures him that he shouldn't worry about work. Bidding farewell for 3 days, he leaves. Just a few moments later, Okada can be seen tensed about specific work-related tasks. She is on her computer station in a call with one of Kishi's clients. There is a problem that she initially thinks of telling Kishi about, but later decides not to disturb him during his leave. She tries to deal with it personally, but she can't seem to take Kishi's thoughts out of her mind. Looking at Kishi's desk, she thinks of how Kishi would generally be there to keep his gaze on her. Now that he isn't there, Okada should feel more comfortable. But that doesn't seem to be the case here. She is feeling quite lonely all by herself, wondering about what he would be doing or what would be going on with him. She is constantly staring at her phone. She realizes everything, almost as if she is waiting for him to contact her. She sighs at how she can't seem to concentrate on her work. It's nighttime now, and Okada is all stressed and fatigued since she did overtime at her office for the first time. She is hungry but too tired to cook, so she thinks a bread is a good alternative. Right when she is thinking about it, she is suddenly hit by a thought when Kishi tells her that bread alone is not really nutritious enough. She feels low when she realizes that she is all by herself for now. Deep inside, she feels lonely without Kishi. She preps a meal for herself, but then she thinks that it's too late for it. It's almost 11 o'clock p.m., and she needs to take a shower too. She decides to eat the meal for breakfast. In the morning, she just oversleeps and is in the office late and hungry. She hasn't eaten anything since last day's lunch and already has tons of work piled on her. She wonders what Kishi would do in such a situation, and that's when she's struck with the realization that she's thinking about Kishi again. She's not hungry, she's just craving some attention at this point. While working hard, she just puts her head on the desk and falls asleep, claiming that she can't do it anymore. In her dream, she sees Kishi showing up with an appetizing meal and her favorite dessert as well. She's mumbling to herself in sleep when Kishi actually shows up with his cardigan to cover her up. She wakes up, all shocked, just to witness him standing there before her. He conveys his gratitude for the work that Okada has been doing in Kishi's place. She asks Kishi about his sudden presence, and he affirms that his business was taken care of earlier than expected. That's why he was there a day before. Okada asks about how did he know that she was in the office. He responds that he always knows about her. Okada shows him the invoice she made to confirm whether he wants any changes. While he goes on to explain about it, she just can't seem to focus other than the thought that his voice is making her feel more relieved. Kishi apologized that he made Okada handle his client, to which she responded that though it was hectic, she actually wasn't feeling well either. She says that she can't seem to do without Kishi by her side. Okada goes on to explain how she couldn't keep herself from constantly thinking about Kishi. To which he responds that he should have contacted while he was gone. He explains that when he went to his house after ages, he witnessed that there were more dogs than before. Kishi shows her the litter, which she finds cute. In her mind, she's just praising the feeling she gets with Kishi. She would really want it that way for now. It's almost night, and they barely make it to the last train. But thankfully they did. On their way home, Kishi witnesses Okada's rumbling stomach and asks if he could treat her with a meal. She agrees, saying that she would want an omelette for dinner. He explained that his fridge might be empty, so he would have to fetch some groceries. Okada leaves him to go to her house, and then he goes to the supermarket. All excited about Kishi's cooking, she's walking through the hallway when a figure approaches her from behind. All she could think of was Kishi, but it turned out that it was someone else. She can't seem to recognize the person, but the guy already knows too much about her. She questions him about how he knows her and who he even is. He grabs her by hand really tight, saying that she shouldn't be seeing other men when he was there for her, which scares her. Grabbing her hand, he starts to drag her to his place while she tries to remove her hand from his grapple. While he is taking steps to reach the supermarket, all he can think is Okada. He recalls her kind words and wonders if he has been to any use of her lately. And if he had been, he would rather be more useful and pay up for just a fraction of what she has done for him. Reminiscing all that in his mind, he recalls that he is also out of ketchup. He wonders if Okada has some at her place. For confirmation, he tried to call her, but she couldn't seem to pick up the call since she was in a dire situation. The scene shifts to Okada, where she has been strangled by a person who claims to be from the same institute that she has studied in. This is Tanaka. He is from Okada's first year at the same university, but she still doesn't know him. He goes on to explain how Okada had played a beneficial role in changing his whole world. He reveals that he only spoke to Okada during his entire time at the university, and she's been kind to him, and just by a mere encounter, this guy fell hard for her. But on the darker side, he is really envious of Kishi and the fact that Okada is closer to him than this blockhead. Meanwhile, Okada's phone is constantly buzzing, and she realizes that it's Kishi. She goes on to reach out for her phone, but the dude snatches it in the blink of an eye. Seeing Kishi's name on the screen, he is filled with agony. On the other hand, Kishi goes through his letterbox when he witnesses some really concerning letters. They look like some sneak pictures of him and Okada, but in all of them, his face has been marked with a cross. He comprehends that Okada might be in trouble as she is not picking up his phone either. At the same time, Okada's phone is in Tanaka's hands. He is constantly looking at Kishi's name and is burning with envy. Out of anger, he smashes her phone on the ground, causing the screen to shatter. He shouts at her to stay as the Okada, who would only be nice to him, but instantly receives a powerful punch from Kishi, which makes him taste dirt. Kishi is infuriated. Anger can be seen in his flashing eyes. He grabs him by the collar and threatens him not to touch Okada. He reaches out to Okada out of consent, having her to be wrapped in his arms tightly. But then, when he realizes this, he instantly pushes himself away, apologizing to Okada that he couldn't contain himself. He asks if she is hurt, to which she affirms negatively. She is okay. He is glad that she is safe. He had panicked when Okada wasn't picking up his phone. She starts to sob while holding onto his hand tightly. After a while, police appear on the scene, and Kishi reveals that he had called them out of panic. He has never been this scared his entire life. The following day, Okada looks at her broken phone and feels the need to get it repaired. While she's all in her thoughts, she witnesses Kishi right before her. Startled, she says, "Good morning," to which he replies, "Good morning too." Kishi notices that her face is entirely flushed and asks to confirm if she has a fever. She responds that her temperature is just 37.7 degrees. She'd be alright. Kishi asks her to take a good rest today as he will do all her work remotely, to which she agrees. A few moments later, she realizes that Kishi is actually right about her fever. It has gone up, and she probably needs some food and medicine. A knock on the door disrupts her thoughts. When she reaches there, she witnesses a bag full of essentials that she might need at the time, with a note from Kishi in it. She calls him to convey her gratitude, and he reminds her to eat on time. Meanwhile, in her head, she's pondering about being more of a burden for those around her. He asks her to let him know of things in any case. She finds the gesture to be cute and realizes how they both live just next to each other, but can't really be together. Unintentionally, she asks Kishi straight away if he will come and stay next to her. But he denies it, saying that he can't really do that. Overthinking being rejected by Kishi, Okada starts to ponder if she had done or said something offensive without intending to. Was holding his hand in public a kind of harassment to him? Or is it something else that's bothering him? Such thoughts start to evade her mind, and she falls asleep for a moment while on the call with Kishi. When Kishi realizes that she hasn't responded for a while now, he rushes to her room to check if she's okay. Last night's incident has really gotten the best of him. He is actually worried for Okada. It's morning already, and the scene shifts to Okada waking up from a deep sleep, wondering if last night's call was just a dream. It's 6 o'clock, and she wakes up to Kishi sitting on the floor and asleep. Okada notices a note on her side table and a bowl of pre-made porridge. Kishi had made this for her to eat when she woke up, and it was breakfast. She reaches out to put a blanket on him, but it just wakes him up. Kishi gasps as he wakes up, instantly apologizing for entering her room without her consent. But he did that out of worry as the conversation had abruptly stopped last night. Since he has confirmed that she is okay, he proceeds to leave the room. His words from the previous night have struck Okada's head, and she wobbles to make him stop from not going away. She just wants him to be there. She grabs him by his waist, but her mind can't think of anything other than letting him go. It's her heart that wants him to be near her. She fears that Kishi might leave her forever. Her heart begins to race as she holds on to him tightly. She doesn't want him to go anywhere. She's just so in love with him. Kishi turns around to face Okada. He grabs her by the shoulders and proceeds to put her on her bed, as she seems to still have a fever. He puts a blanket on her and simply leaves. Moments later, Okada's colleague Stalker joins her in her room. At first she thinks it is Kishi, but it ends up being Stalker who reveals that Kishi had asked her to come ask Okada if she's doing alright. Since she seems fine, Stalker tries to bid farewell, but Okada offers her some coffee. Stalker is dumbfounded when, out of nowhere, Okada asks her about her current boyfriend. This already makes her guess that Okada might have fallen in love too, which she goes on to confirm. She replies that it probably might be the case, and Stalker asks if it's Kishi. She's just so easy to read as she doesn't seem to feel scared around Kishi, even though he has such stalking-like behavior. She wonders what Kishi thinks of her. Does he even have any feelings for her, or is it just Okada? She concludes that she should let Kishi know about her feelings for him. Okada reaches out to Kishi to ask him for lunch the next day, but it seems like he already has his lunch with him. Disappointed, she just walks off, thinking that she just got rejected by him. Ever since she realized that she likes Kishi, she receives this fluttering feeling. She wants to know what Kishi feels for her. Kishi almost rejects her for everything she asks him for and seems to be sad over something. He doesn't even randomly pop up behind her anymore. One day, Okada is reached out by Kishi himself, who wants to have a proper discussion with her. She conveys her thankfulness for the gifts and for taking care of her office work for the day. He says that he's just glad now that Okada has recovered. He recalls back when he had some weird mail in his letterbox and asks if Okada had them too. She affirms that there was nothing as such. He takes a sigh of relief, but in his head, he is going through a barrage of budging thoughts that he really needs to convey. He can't go on like this. Whenever he is near Okada, sole thoughts of getting to know her more and cherishing her take control over his head, and just because of that, he tells Okada that he plans to leave the apartment complex. While he said that, he was also going through massive numbers of contrasting thoughts in his head. When he first saw her, he thought of her as a flower that would bloom everything in her surroundings. Her warm behaviors made him overcome all the cold and harsh treatments that he has been through all his life. She is something that almost pulled him from a really dark alley towards her brightness. If he is shadow, then Okada is his light. He just wanted to be near her, help her through specific problems, and simply wanted her to smile so that he could cherish it. That's all he would have wanted, but then the sole thought of turning into the same guy, Tanaka, who tried to harm her, haunts Kishi. He thinks of himself as no different than Tanaka because his obsessions might turn him into someone who could hurt her for being over-obsessed. He questions whether all those feelings that have been growing inside him quite rapidly are just out of admiration, but then answers to himself with a dreadful realization that obsessions might lead to destruction. He might end up being the same guy, Tanaka. Okada questions his decision to leave the apartment complex, even though it's closer to the office and rent-free. In reply, he says there are other places close to the office too. His answer makes Okada wonder if it's all just because of her. She concludes that she might have just been nosy and should have let go of the carelessness. It might not be the right time to ask him about his feelings for her. She goes on to convey her apologies, saying that she might have just been spinning her wheels. While she tries to walk off with it, Kishi holds her shoulder to make her stop. He says it's not like that. He tries to convey his feelings finally. He explained how he wanted to praise her, but he still wanted to do that. He felt delighted to be around her at work, even at home. He explains that the more he sees her, the more he wants to be by her side. But then, at the same time, he feels like it is dangerous to be around her with such feelings inside him that it might turn him into an over-obsessed monster. His overgrowing feelings make him go crazy every time, and he can't help but gaze at her to know how or where she is. Revealing all that to Okada, he says that it's better for him to leave as he is already in love with her. He wants to treasure her while making sure he doesn't hurt her. It's more like he adores being around her but doesn't want to be with her simultaneously. Stating all the reasons, he runs away without having to listen to Okada's thoughts. Whatever the case, Okada is just happy that Kishi doesn't hate her. She treasures him the same way he does, but this time she decides that she will be the one to try to stay by his side.
Here I am, know it's been a while.